Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stephen King Reviews number 25, Cell. Today's review is for the 25th book I read of Stephen King's, and so far, my least favorite. Where were you on October 1st at 3:03 p.m.? Graphic artist Clay Riddell was in the heart of Boston on that brilliant autumn afternoon when hell was unleashed before his eyes. Without warning, carnage and chaos reigned. Ordinary people fell victim to the basest, most animalistic destruction, and the apocalypse began with the ring of a cell phone. A marvel, you're utterly at the mercy of a master storyteller. Stephen King has your number. Oddly enough, the synopsis on the back makes the story sound more scary than it really is. But with that said, I liked it until 186 pages in, and then the story started sinking like quicksand, to the point I hurried to finish it because of how dumb it became. For horror factor, I gave it 5 out of 10 because it is suspenseful and scary till about halfway through. For story quality, I gave it 4 out of 10 because it's just a very cheesy and cheap story, quite bland, very tasteless in a way. So, you know, just lacking a sense of the traditional Stephen King flavor that makes it good is a good way of looking at it. Um, Suspense Intensity, I gave it 4 out of 10 because it has the same problems as the horror factor category. But the difference with horror factor is it is scary to some degree more than it is suspenseful because it just gets dumber and dumber and the ending is terrible. So even to the end, it just is sinking and sinking to the point there's less suspense than there is horror of what happened. For memorable characters, I gave it 3 out of 10 because there's only really one decent, kind of likable character, and she is killed off, I think a little over 300 pages in, which just really ruined the story that much more for me. The overall rating totals up to 16 out of 40 with 5 out of 10 for horror factor, story quality 4 out of 10, 4 out of 10 for suspense intensity, and 3 out of 10 for memorable characters. There are some good points early on, but by page 200, I mentally checked out and I stopped being scared. And I just found the rest quite dumb and pointless. In fact, I think even taking the early portion of the book and just making a short story out of it would have worked a lot better in Stephen King's like world. Like if he had just taken, let's say, even the first, you know, 35, 40 pages or so and made a short story out of it, it probably would have been a lot better and quite good, I think. It's just, it drags on. And like I said, it just starts to sink like quicksand, just gradually going down in suspense, horror, and everything it really does initially bring to the table quickly gets spoiled, especially by about 186, like I'm saying, because everything that made the story suspenseful and scary up to that point just kind of gets thrown out the window. And it's just like, wow, that's so dumb. Okay, this story isn't scary or suspenseful anymore. Like, oh, I just need to finish this to get through it. So, as you can imagine, I'm not very favorable to this one. So, yeah, my final thoughts would be it's not my favorite by any means, and yet I'd say it's worth reading still, just to see how bad it is. Kind of like a dare. Even the best can have an off day, and with about 80 books or so, Stephen King doesn't miss often, what I've gathered from all the books I have read so far. But here he definitely does for sure. So Yeah, so not really holding much weight as far as like where I would sit it in his collection overall. Luckily, it's not the size of the stand or anything, because if this was a 1200 page book, I probably would have wanted to throw it in the garbage or burn it just because of how terrible the 400 or so pages were, right? But like I say, at the same time, it is kind of fun to read just to see Stephen King where it just feels like he's not really trying and he's just kind of writing it for the fuck of it. And that kind of makes it entertaining. But if you're expecting to be scared or expecting a good suspenseful story, Cell is quite a disappointment. And like I say, the big thing that really weighs this down for me is the characters. It's just very bland, not likable, one dimensional, we'll say, even, which is rare for Stephen King books. Usually his characters are part of what makes the story so great. Like I say, the one female character is kind of more likable and relatable, but that's why, like, when they killed her off, I really was like, okay, fuck this story. So, yeah, as you can imagine, I don't really have much good to say about it. But, like I say, I'm not going to say, like, it's entirely terrible or it's not worth reading. Because, like I say, it's kind of entertaining just to see. If that's Stephen King at his worst, he's still better than people who have never published a book or published books that weren't as good. And like I say, he has so many other books that are absolutely amazing, fantastic, and incredible that it's like with about 80 books, yeah, you're not going to hit 100 points a game every time. You're going to have an off day. And, well, clearly Cell was Stephen King's off day. But that's my thoughts. And until next review, hope you enjoy it. I apologize for the delay. I was really battling depression. A woman named Natsuki broke my heart yesterday, so I was very sad and down about that. Just didn't feel like doing the review. But yeah, until next time, I hope you stay tuned for review number 26, which will be Cujo, a much better book, a book I actually loved. So I'll be a lot more positive with that review. Anyways, I apologize for the barking. Like I said, that always seems to fucking go on and it's irritating, but nothing I can do. Super Kami Guru Alucard, peace out, matane.